I wanna change the weight division because I feel that I'm not enjoying anymore the process. It makes me at some point hate the sport. The only thing I had in my mind is like I'm fighting for the war title or I'm not fighting. And finally, I will shut his mouth. And we are gonna be in that octagon alone, and I'm gonna maul him. I'm gonna maul that blonde bitch.
Drama erupts ahead of fight night. Ilia Topuria has made shocking allegations in a fiery new interview, turning up the heat as he gears up for his battle with Charles Oliveira. Building on that intensity, Ilia Topuria wasted no time shutting down the brewing narrative that his situation with Islam Makhachev mirrors the drama between John Jones and Tom Aspinall. Brushing off the comparisons, Topuria made it clear he does not see Jones as ducking Aspinall, and he's not buying into the idea that Islam is avoiding him either.
Not at all.
No,
Not
no.
at all.
Tell me.
You can't even compare that situation. You can't compare like John Jones with Islam, you know what I mean? John has done so many great things in the sport. He fought the best of the best in the last 10 years. So I don't think he's ducking anyone. You know, he just wants to retire. He's tired maybe of the game or whatever, and he wants to retire. I don't think he's ducking anyone because you can find a guy always that no, he's the next one, he's the next one, he's the next one. Even if he beats Tom Aspinall, there's gonna be someone new. So
he has his own goals. This is what I think.
Expanding on that point, Topuria argued that Islam Makhachev is simply carving out his own path, not running from any challenge. He's focused on creating his own legacy and doing what he wants to do. Ilia emphasized that Islam is tired of cutting weight, hence his decision to move divisions.
I think he's doing his things. I don't think he's ducking me, to be honest. I will be lying to you if I tell you that he's ducking me. I think he's tired of the weight cut. He wants a new challenge. He moved to the welterweight division. He feels and he thinks that he has a chance to become a double champion. And I think that this is all he's trying to do. I think that not a lot of people understand how hard is the weight cut, you know. When you get tired of the weight cut, it's like there's no name in the world that motivates you to fight. There's no money in the world. It's like you just want to take care of your health.
We'll see how he does in the welterweight division. If he wins the title, I win the title in the lightweight division. Maybe I move up or he comes down to the lightweight division and we have the fight that everyone wants to see.
Reflecting on his own struggles, Topuria didn't hold back, revealing that the grind of making weight has pushed him to the point of resenting the very sport he loves. But rather than let it break him, the unbeaten star decided it was time for a change.
I had a meeting with Hunter and I told him like I don't wanna keep killing myself to make this the 145 weight class. I wanna change the weight division because I feel that I'm not enjoying anymore the process. It makes me at some point hate the sport. You know, when you cut the weight, you are like, this is the last time I'm fighting. This is the last time I'm cutting the weight. And in reality, I love the sport. I love my job. I love what I'm doing. So I had to make some changes.
When you're facing that kind of things, you can't really enjoy anything, you know?
Staying true to his approach, with his sights locked on the title, Topuria hadn't played the call-out game or chased clout by dropping big names. For him, it had been simple. Whoever had stood between him and championship gold had been fair game. However, he did add that the fight fans really want to see is one with Paddy, and when the UFC makes that happen, he promised to destroy Paddy and put the discussion to rest.
I wanted to fight for the world title, and this is what I'm doing. If it's against Islam, against Charles, against Arman, whoever, this is what I wanted. I didn't had any specific name in my head like I'm fighting this guy or I'm not fighting. The only thing I had in my mind is like I'm fighting for the world title or I'm not fighting. In the past, I said that the UFC would put those guys together. And if Paddy is able to go through Justin Gaethje and get that win, why not? That's one of the fights that also the people wants to see. I think it's gonna be one of the biggest fights in the UFC history. So I hope Cross the fingers that he gets that win. And finally, I will shut his mouth. And we are gonna be in that octagon alone, and I'm gonna maul him. I'm gonna maul that.
Turning his focus to Oliveira, Ilia Topuria didn't bother sugarcoating it. In his view, Charles Oliveira might believe he had openings to exploit, but the truth was, he didn't. Topuria made it clear he saw no real threat standing across from him. As far as Ilia was concerned, all Charles needed to do was show up. Topuria planned to handle the rest and leave no doubt about who ruled the cage.
You never faced someone that skillful like me. This is what I'm saying since a long time ago. The skill development I'm bringing in the sport, they never felt it. They never saw it. So this is what's going to happen with Charles. He thinks that he has some opportunities, but the reality is that he has not. The only thing he has to do is like show up, and I'm going to do the rest.
On the other side, Charles Oliveira kept it straightforward, pointing out that the most dangerous weapon in Ilia Topuria's arsenal was his boxing. Oliveira saw that as the key threat, Topuria's relentless hunt for the finish with his hands. And for Charles, that was the one thing he knew he'd have to be ready for when the cage door closed.
Cara, com certeza na parte de boxe dele, né? Ele é boxer, ele é cara que ele caça na luta. Então tem que ficar esperto muito nisso.
It's probably going to be his boxing. He's a boxer. He's a guy who's always looking to finish the fight in that way. So that's what I got to mostly watch out for.
However, Topuria expressed full confidence as he stated that he holds the advantage over Oliveira, regardless of whether the fight takes place on the ground or is fought standing up, declaring that he is the superior fighter. No matter how it ends, one thing he's certain of: he plans to finish the job inside the first round, whether by knockout or submission.
To be honest, I feel that I have the advantage in the grappling game also. I feel and I know that I'm better than him even in the ground game. So we'll see how the fight will go, because if I have to submit him, I have all the abilities to do that also. So we'll see. I can knock him out, I can submit him, whatever. The only thing I know for sure is that I'm gonna knock him out in the first round or submit him in the first round, because he walks forward. I'm not gonna need to close the distance with him. Since the first moment, we are gonna find each other in the center of the octagon. So, yeah, it's gonna be a first round finish.
Delving deeper into their fighting styles, Charles Oliveira saw more similarities than Topuria might want to admit. In Charles's eyes, both men were cut from the same cloth, both chased finishes, both came to put on a show, and both were always looking to build pressure and stay on the attack. Whether Ilia agreed or not, Charles believed they shared the same mindset when it came to delivering violence in the cage.
São dois caras que andam pra frente, né? São dois caras que caçam o tempo inteiro, né? Eu me sinto completo tanto em pé quanto no chão. Não posso falar do lado dele, mas o que eu acho muito parecido entre nós dois são dois caras que caçam.
I think we're both guys that are always looking for the fight. Speak for him, but I think we're both guys that are always looking to finish and to put on great fights and always moving forward.
However, Topuria left no room for debate. He believed that if he hurt Oliveira, there wouldn't be any comeback. In his mind, his power was on a different level from anything Oliveira had dealt with before.
If I hurt him, he's not gonna have the chance to come back. Because my power is completely different than the other guys you mentioned before.
Volkanovski, Holloway, Oliveira. Would that be the best 3 wins back-to-back in MMA history?
I don't know, maybe yes, maybe no.
I challenge him. Like,
Yeah.
we can do only separate like a boxing match, a grappling match, a wrestling match. Everywhere I beat him, everywhere, however I want. This is how confident I feel.
Adding to the pre-fight analysis, while he acknowledged that some fans weren't exactly buzzing with excitement over the matchup, Michael Bisping weighed in with a take that blended respect with cold, hard realism.
I mean, obviously, that's the fight of the weekend. It's the big title fight. I'm excited for it. Some people were kind of complaining saying that, you know, Charles didn't really deserve it. I know Justin Gaethje wasn't happy.
Bisping made it clear he saw it as a great fight nonetheless. When it came to picking a winner, he didn't hesitate. Ilia Topuria, in his view, was the safe bet. Bisping admitted he held Charles Oliveira in high regard and had always been a fan of what the former champ brought to the table. But sentiment aside, he'd have felt confident staking a decent chunk of cash on Topuria to get the job done.
I think Ilia Topuria is the safe pick. You know, if you wanted to put some money on this, I assume that Ilia is the favorite. I don't know what the odds are, but I assume that he's the favorite.
I would think so.
I would be, we can't bet. And this, I'm a fan of Charles Oliveira, and all I've ever done is talk highly about him. But I'd be really, really confident putting a good amount of money on Ilia Topuria. Yes, Charles has the ability to finish. Yes, he's reckless. Yes, he's dangerous. Yeah, he's got the subs and he can hit hard and all that stuff. And he's got the experience and he's a former champion. But he has lost a few lately.
Breaking down Topuria's style further, Bisping described Ilia as a fighter who didn't take chances and fought with cold calculation. Everything the undefeated contender did was deliberate, with no wasted risks or reckless moves. That's exactly what made him such a dangerous problem for anyone standing across from him.
Ilia doesn't take chances. He's very calculated. He lines things up. He sets things up. He cuts off the cage. He waits. He flinches and feints and throws a lot of misdirection. And then when he goes, he has the knockout power. He has the wrestling to stop the takedowns. On the ground, he's got more submissions than what he does knockouts on his own record. So I think he can handle himself down there. So I think it's a pretty safe bet to say Ilia Topuria will be the lightweight champion of the world come Saturday night.
Meanwhile, offering a word of caution, Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson highlighted that Charles holds the record for the most submission wins in UFC history. Johnson didn't stop there. He reminded everyone that Oliveira wasn't just a submission artist. He'd knocked people out too. That versatility, he hinted, was something Ilia Topuria couldn't afford to overlook.
I would say Charles Oliveira is more dynamic than Max Holloway, meaning that you see Charles Oliveira, he has the most submission victory wins in the UFC. You know, he's knocked people out, he submitted them. Max has two, but Max tends to stay on his feet when he fights, where Charles will go everywhere in the fight to get the job done. So boys,
from a tactical perspective, Luke Thomas cast doubt on the idea that Ilia Topuria would look to take the fight to the ground. From Thomas's perspective, it simply hadn't seemed like a strategy Topuria would be banking on. Given Topuria's confidence in his striking and willingness to engage on the feet, Thomas suggested fans shouldn't expect a grappling heavy approach from the undefeated contender.
There are limited scenarios where I could see Topuria going for takedowns. If he gets hurt, he might get desperate. There are potential ones from the clinch where he might decide to, you know, show, hey, I can hang out in your guard without being submitted. And that always
point, yeah,
that always is risky. I mean, guys do it, you know, Chandler did it, you know, and what tends to happen is in those scenarios, you'll just see like, you know, I think you'll see like De La Riva for De La Riva guard, reverse De La Riva X. You'll see all kinds of stuff like that. He plays a lot of De La Riva guard. Charles Oliveira does, which is just basically like different ways to secure leg entanglements. But I just don't see that as a forward part of the strategy. Now, again, there might be like, I'm going to do a dominance thing and take your will from you kind of thing.
Continuing the strategic advice, Luke Thomas urged Charles Oliveira to fight smart and keep Ilia Topuria at a safe distance. Knowing full well that Topuria was a dangerous puncher, Thomas stressed the importance of not letting him close the gap.
You got a dynamite puncher here. You have to decide what range you're going to fight at with him and what makes sense. And I think you got to keep him at your range. I'm doing push kicks a ton. I'm doing jabs to the body a ton. Leg kicking sprinkled in as part of that, slowing down his wheels, slowing down his motion, you know, putting him at distance, putting him at range, keeping him at the end of your punches, circling, moving. And then to the extent that he tries to get for close contact, you're trying to wrestle him to his hands to create back exposure. He has to be able to pressure, right? So what are you going to do to take away the jab? What are you going to do to take away the pressure? What are you going to do like in some kind of way to neutralize these things. Because to the extent you neutralize both of those, not saying he can't win, but then the game becomes very different. I think honestly, BC, the reality is in certain ways, the fans almost win either way. Charles reclaiming the title has a significant amount of value. Ilia becoming the new person to become a title in 2 weight classes has significant value, but one man has the ability to put the sport on his back and take it to new heights if he can win, and that one is Ilia Topuria. I'm going to be watching closely for many things, including that one.
Further stoking the debate, James Lynch had stirred the pot by calling out what he saw as wildly off-base odds ahead of the fight. According to Lynch, there had been no justification for Charles Oliveira being slapped with a plus 320 underdog tag. In his view, the bookmakers had been seriously underestimating a fighter who'd already taken out the top names in the division.
Ilia Topuria minus 420, the comeback on Oliveira plus 320. I'll say it right now, right off the bat, guys. These odds are way off. There's no reason Charles Oliveira should be plus 320. This is a guy that has fought the who's who in the weight class. He's a former champion. He's got wins over Poirier, Chandler, Gaethje, you name it. He's outside of the one bad loss he's had to Islam. Outside of that, he's looked great. I know he lost to Arman, but that was at least a close fight. Like, he's right there. The concern, obviously, is that he's 35 and Topuria is 28. But here's the thing that'll be interesting. You look at how big Oliveira is. 5'10 with the 74-inch reach, 69-inch reach, and 5'7 for Topuria. Let's be honest here. Topuria's got to knock him out. That's his only path to victory here. I don't, possibly knock him down and submit him. That could happen too, but I really don't think Topuria is going to win a decision against Oliveira, knock out Oliveira there. So I'm going to go 3rd round knockout with Ilia Topuria knocking out Charles Oliveira, and he'll end up getting a 2nd belt, and hopefully it'll be a interesting reign going forward. Maybe we can get Islam to come back to 155. We'll see, but there's some big fights ahead if Topuria gets this one done. Saying that though, I will not count out Charles Oliveira because I can certainly see a world where Topuria doesn't land that big shot. Charles ends up picking it up later in the round. Topuria might be getting fatigued. And
adding another layer to the analysis, Beneil Dariush had stepped in to call out what he saw as a major oversight in the pre-fight chatter that everyone seemed to be sleeping on Charles Oliveira. Dariush believed that if Oliveira managed to mix in his Muay Thai effectively, it would create serious problems for Ilia Topuria. He also highlighted a key detail that Topuria's recent success had largely come off the back of his leg kicks. However, Dariush stated that Charles Oliveira was no easy target in that department as he had solid kick defense in his arsenal.
They're overlooking Charles, and Charles, if he's able to mix in his Muay Thai, what I mean, like his knees and his kicks, and he's able to use those as fakes, it's going to be a really difficult fight for Ilia. And I think people don't understand. The last 2 fights, Ilia was able to win those fights, not because of his boxing, but because of his leg kicks. And Charles is very good at defending the leg kick. So it's not going to be an easy fight.
Looking at the bigger picture, Dariush had pointed out that Charles Oliveira already had a legacy carved in stone. Having faced and beaten the elite of the division, Oliveira's resume spoke for itself. Dariush saw the Topuria fight as just another opportunity for Charles to add to that legacy, further cementing his place among the lightweight greats.
Amazing legacy, he's fought everybody, and he's done it for such a long time. It's just that's all I could say. He has a great legacy, and this is just gonna add more to it.
Furthermore, he acknowledged why many are picking Ilia, but stressed that Oliveira's experience, danger factor, and ability to turn the tide at any moment make this a far more nuanced matchup than some believe.
Things like that. So I think the fight's a lot closer. I understand why people are favoring Ilia, and I think if you had to ask me, I probably would favor him as well, but I don't think it's gonna be like, oh, he's gonna walk through through Charles like everybody thinks. The guy can grapple. You cannot be a fan of his, but you can't say he's not a good grappler. So he's a good grappler. I feel like he's fought other good grapplers down, and he just shuts them down. So I think Ilia's grappling is very, very good, and if anything, it could be considered underrated.
However, former fighter and coach Din Thomas had added his voice to the conversation. In his eyes, Ilia Topuria wasn't a true lightweight, just a featherweight making the jump. That alone, Thomas suggested, made the matchup all the more intriguing. Regardless of the stakes, what made this fight stand out was the clash of 2 men from completely different backgrounds, now colliding for the lightweight crown.
2 guys, I mean, it's easy to say are 2 of the best lightweights in the world, right? Like, that's typically what you'd want to say when you're talking about the lightweight title fight. But Ilia is not a traditional lightweight. He's not your typical, he's a featherweight moving up. So that makes this a little bit different. And Charles Oliveira, more so than the best lightweight in the world. He's such a fan favorite. So this fight is just interesting in its own way, in its own unique way, regardless of what the stakes are. And that's for the lightweight title. But this fight is just unique in its own way, that we're dealing with two different guys from two different complete backgrounds actually fighting for the lightweight title. So I'm excited about that.
Not one to let labels define him. Ilia Topuria wasn't having any of it. He shut down the talk that he was a rookie at lightweight. Topuria reminded everyone that this wasn't his first trip to the division. He'd already stepped in there against Jai Herbert.
I already fought in the UFC in the lightweight division. And I felt really good. He was even taller than Charles, and I felt really good. I didn't feel any disadvantage with him because he was bigger or anything like that. Of course, they used to be a little bit taller, but I have my advantages also.
As the final countdown to fight night ticks away, the tension between Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira has reached a boiling point. With shocking allegations, bold predictions, and fiery confidence on both sides, the stage is set for a showdown that promises high-stakes drama and unforgettable action. Whether it's Topuria's cold, calculated power or Oliveira's seasoned versatility, this clash is bound to shake up the lightweight division in spectacular fashion. Drop your predictions in the comment section below. Who's walking out with their hand raised? Topuria or Oliveira? If you're hyped for this epic collision, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more fight breakdowns, exclusive updates, and we will catch you in the next video with more exciting updates.